So here is just some of what we will do as the 47th President of the United States. And we're all doing this together. We're all doing this as a group. I totally will obliterate. We started it very strongly, got rid of a lot of bad ones in Washington, real bad ones. But, you know, they come back at you, all sorts of things with the fake Mueller report. By the way, no collusion at the end of 2.5 years with Russia. It was so interesting, you know, during the campaign. They started this earlier than my win, but we were doing well. And young staffers would come up to, "Sir, it's so great to meet you, sir." And I said, "Nice to meet you. What's going on?" "Sir, do you have anything to do with Russia?" I said, "That's a strange question." "No, I don't know anything about it." "The hell do I know about Russia? We got enough problems." And then 2 months later, another young man came up to me. "Hello, sir, it's an honor." "Sir, anything you are doing with Russia that maybe we should know about, sir?" I said, No, I don't know what you mean." And this happened 4 or 5 times. After about the 5th time, I said, "You know, there's something strange going on with Russia." And that was it. And then when she lost, they used that as an excuse for her loss because they were very embarrassed. You know, it was, they say, the biggest upset. I didn't think it was. I did a speech in Michigan. I had 38,000 people there the day before. And she did a speech, and she had like almost nobody. She had like 100 people. So I don't know why it's an upset, but they called it an upset. But they used the Russia, you know, Russia. They used that, the fake media used that as a way of justifying her defeat. They used it, and it was supposed to be a one-day story, but it turned out to last for 2.5 years, you know, because it caught on. It caught on, unbelievably caught on. And then Mueller did the report, 18 angry Democrats. They were sick, angry Democrats. And I think I had an angel in the room because they came up and they said, I did nothing, but they would have written whatever they would have written. They're very dishonest people. Look at the J6 committee. Think of it. I mean, take a look at the committee. If you look at this committee, they just put out a report. Think of it. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. And the report, they've just deleted all evidence. So if you are on trial, if anybody's on trial, you have no evidence whatsoever. These are political thugs. These are political thugs. These are bad people. And we'll see what happens because I think it's a disgrace. So what's happened to a lot of people, it shouldn't be allowed to happen. You could take a look at Portland. You take a look at Minneapolis. You take a look at Seattle, where they practically took over half of the city, a big part of the city. People were killed, and nothing happens to them, but they went after some people, and it's been very unfair, two tiers of justice. So it's been a very interesting period, but we have to protect our people. We have to protect all of our people, and we have to protect everybody, both sides. But what's happened in this country is very sad. I will totally obliterate the deep state, stop the weaponization of our government, and overhaul the corrupt FBI and DOJ. We're going to fix the DOJ. The DOJ is corrupt. The FBI is corrupt. Before I even arrived at the Oval Office, I will shortly, and right after we win, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Many people are dying. You know, I did a town hall for CNN, and I did so good that they fired the head of CNN. I love that. They got the highest ratings in 11 years, and they fired the head. You're supposed to be the opposite. They're supposed to say, congratulations, but they fired him. But we talked about all of these things at that town hall. It was actually good. Caitlin Collins, I think she ruined her. Caitlin Collins, right? I think she ruined her career that night. That was not a great night for CNN, but they did get good ratings. That's the good news. But I'm able to say very strongly that I'm the only candidate who can make a promise that's a very important promise, the most important promise that we can have. I will prevent World War III. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And to stop the Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers while persecuting Republicans, conservatives, and people of faith, I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical DA and AG in America for their illegal racist in reverse enforcement of the law. As we restore the border, I will also use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home. and the countries from which they come. On day one, I will repeal Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate. Now think of it. Think of it. Number one, I told you before, they're made all in China, all going to be made in China and other countries, done here. The United Auto Workers auto-endorsed Trump very quickly. You know, for years and decades, they just automatically endorse a Democrat. But we've lost 50% of our automaking over the number of decades. Goes to Mexico, goes to China. Mexico, unbelievable. A lot of it goes to Canada. The USMCA has been unbelievable, what we did with that. But a lot of it goes to Canada. What they've done is so bad. But now they want to do electric tanks. So we have our big Sherman tanks running in. They want to make them electric so they can be friendly, environmentally friendly, as you go in and blast the hell out of a community that they want to blast out. But it's done in an environmentally friendly way. Now think of it. Now the only problem is the tank can't go very far. It doesn't have the kind of power they need. But it can't go very far. So they're going to have to put charging stations all up and down enemy territory. These people are crazy, I'm telling you. These people, they want to make electric tanks. And I said, no, thanks. And the other problem is the battery. You know, the battery is so big that you'd have to have the tank towing a truck behind it because the battery is right there. That's a good idea. Then they want to change our trucks to all electric. And I know a lot about trucks and a lot about the industry. And I have a lot of friends in the industry, big ones, the biggest guys, the biggest. They have hundreds of these things, big ones. And one of them said, you know, I've been doing this for 60 years, and every year my truck gets bigger, better. I build these big, I get these big trucks. They're incredible. Peterbilt, different manufacturers. And I buy a lot of them every year. Owns a lot of them. And one of the biggest, great guy. I won't use his name. I don't want to get him in trouble. But great guy. But they're all great guys, you know. They do a great job. He said, every year my trucks get better. They're bigger, they're better, they're stronger, they go faster, they're just incredible. And if they do the electric mandate on trucks, we will go back 60 years. Because a truck that's top of the line, big, with the big tanks for the diesel, can go approximately 2,000 miles. An electric truck could go approximately 300 miles. It's a slight difference. You talk about supply chain problems, right? So you'll have to stop 6 or 7 times in order to do what another truck is doing. And they don't care about that. The other day I left South Carolina and I visited a big boat factory with a fantastic company. They make hundreds of boats a year. They make beautiful speedboats. And they said that the government now is starting to impose electric mandates on them. They want the boat to be all electric. The problem is the batteries are so heavy that the boat can't float. And they're so big that almost the entirety of the boat would have to be electric. And he said, you know, you asked me a question, sir, that nobody's ever asked me. We're talking about this. They want us to go 2 miles an hour up to 90 miles out. I said, how far does the boat go? About 60 miles. You mean 2 miles? So in other words, these are speedboats. They want them to go 2 miles an hour because they want to protect the whales. Now, in 50 years, one whale was injured by a boat, but the windmills have driven hundreds of whales onto shore. So the windmills are okay, but a boat has to go 2 miles an hour. But I said to him, I said, let me ask you this question. He said he was very honored by this, because smart guy. I said, what happens if your boat sinks and you're sitting on top of this massive battery? Do you get electrocuted? He said, you know, nobody's ever asked me that question before. I was honored, you know, because he's been asked every question, Ziggy. He's been asked every question. He said, nobody's ever asked me that. But that's our uncle from MIT. We have an uncle, a brilliant uncle from a great professor for, I think, the longest term ever from MIT. That's where we get that. I said, so what happens? You get electrocuted if the boat's going down and you're like a little bit off the battery. Do you get electrocuted? So am I better off sitting on top of that battery, you're going down, or am I better off jumping about 10 yards over there, but there's a shark over there? And if I had my choice between a shark and electrocution, I will take electrocution every single day. Do we agree? But they want to change boats to all electric, and they don't work. They don't work. And they don't want to hear it. You know, it's like they don't work. In California, they have brownouts and blackouts every single day, and yet they want to go all electric cars. So they want to have all electric cars, and yet they don't have enough electric to take care of the state, which is, by the way, if he ever runs, we'll have so much fun, because that is the worst run state. It's just unbelievable. I watched him being interviewed, and he said, "Oh no, California, we're doing great." Up. He's going, "Great, great, great. It's been unbelievable." Up. The place is getting killed. People are leaving. A beautiful place, though. I will say that. I don't know if he's going to run, and I'm going to be nice to him because he's always been very nice to me. But if we run, we're not going to be nice to him because we're going to have to see if Joe Biden gets to the starting gate. I don't know if he's going to get to the starting gate. I don't know that he will. I think he might not. I hope he does because I think it would be a wonderful thing for America to have a Republican president like me. But we're going to see. Under a Trump administration, gasoline-fired engines will be allowed, but child sexual mutilation will not be allowed. We're not going to allow people to sexually mutilate your child. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content to our beautiful children. It's crazy. I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or mask mandate. And I will do something that's amazing to me that I even have to mention this. I will keep men out of women's sports 100%. Immediately. First day. Did you see the weightlifting record that was broken by 150 pounds? Did you see that the other day? They have a young woman up. She was a fantastic, powerful woman. And she held records, and she wanted to beat this record, 18. And they took a quarter of an ounce, and they put it on one side. And they took a quarter of an ounce, and they put it on the other side of it. Barbell, thick steel, got to lift it up. And her parents were sitting right where Lee is, right there, Lee. Lee is a big fan of Barack Hussein Obama. I'm only kidding. The opposite. But they're sitting right where Lee is, the great Lee. And they're so proud of their daughter. Look at her. She's so strong. She's so great. And she got down and she was going to do it for mom and dad and the whole country. And she gets it up. I have a problem. I have a wife who she hates this routine. She said it's so unpresidential. But I say people love it. I said, darling, you're a great first lady, but people love this routine. She said, couldn't you do it with less enthusiasm? And I understand what she's saying. But this isn't, I'm very presidential. When we did State of the Union addresses, I did very well. I wouldn't do this routine at a State of the Union address. So I'll do it just a quickie for you, okay, if you don't mind. So she gets down, she goes up, oh. And her parents are just so proud of her. And she's getting ready to make the last move. And she can't do it. And she drops it. And then a guy who transitioned comes over. Have you lifted before? They ask. No, not really. But I'd love to give it a try. And he goes, all right. And takes the weight that she couldn't lift. Boom. Puts it down. Then they add 10 pounds. They add another 10. They add another 10. They keep adding the damn weight. She couldn't do a quarter of an ounce on each side. And I believe he broke the record by approximately 150 pounds. I think that's pretty tough. It's going to be hard to beat that record. Do you agree with that, Gina? And then the worst of all was the great swimmer, great athlete, great champion, brilliant swimmer. She's ready to start. She looks left, because they're all like this very, very incredible crowd of people, like golfers. They grow up at 6 years old, at 7 years old, at 8 years. They're all playing the same guys because it's the pyramid, right? And those are all the best players. They play them from the time they're 6 years old. And she swam against all these people, knew them well because she was a champion swimmer, and she was swimming. She looks over to the left, and there's 6 girls that she knew very well, all top girls. And then she looks over to the right, there's 6 girls and 1 very big girl. She looks up. And he looked like Wilt Chamberlain on steroids, okay, this guy. She said, that's the biggest human being I think I've ever seen. And she wanted to break the record, and she was equipped to break the record. But what happened is she suffered a terrible, terrible injury. You know what the injury was? Windburn. He went by her so fast that she suffered massive windburn. The wind was so strong as he went by her Then he went in, he had lunch for a little while, and then the girls finished, and that was the end of the race. He broke a record by many, I think 18 seconds or something like that. This is crazy. This is so demeaning to women. It's so horrible. And a lot of the young women that are being affected don't want to talk about it. They're all afraid to talk, right? They're all afraid to talk. But just as I did 4 years ago, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. Our Second Amendment is under siege. We will restore free speech, and I will secure our elections. Our goal will be one day, think of this, one day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. One day. They just had an election in France. In France, they had, they used to have mail-in ballots in France, and it was so corrupt that they went to one day voting with mail-in ballots. Very special paper and very good stuff. And they had 36 million people voting at 10 o'clock. That was the end of it. 10 o'clock, you had a winner, you had a loser. Macron won, and that's it. I mean, people went home and they worry about the next election, but there was no problems that we have where we have things that are so bad that went on and everybody knows it and it's being adjudicated all over the place. But until we do that, Republicans must compete and we must win. And after we do that, we're going to get things changed so that we can have honest elections here. So in conclusion, this is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Israel is under attack. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control like just about never before. Inflation is what they call a country buster. If you look back at old-time Germany, you look back at some of the countries that suffered inflation, in some cases not as bad as ours, it breaks up the country. It's country buster time. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in 200 years. 200 years. That'll be a defeat like no other. That will be third world country for us. It won't happen with me, not even a chance. Just like Russia would never have invaded Ukraine, and China would not have even thought about raiding Taiwan. China's giving Taiwan very serious thought, and the whole thing with Israel, where that focus is now, they're probably looking at it even tougher. If you took the first, anything you want, 5 presidents, you take the worst 5 presidents, and I think I can really make, I've been saying for a long time, if you took the worst 5 presidents and added them up, nobody would be as bad as Biden. Nobody would be close. But, I really believe I could now make it 10. I could make it 10. You could take the 10 worst presidents in the history of our country, add them up, and nobody would be as bad as this crooked, horrible president that we have. And, I never spoke so badly about him. You've been following me for a long time. You've heard me speak, and we're really like a family, this group today. And all of MAGA, the Republican Party. Look, MAGA and the Republic, most of the Republican, they like to say, well, MAGA represents approximately 55%. No, it represents probably close to 100% of the Republican Party. But we're a failing nation. We're a nation in decline. We're a nation that's doing so badly. We've never had anything like this, and it's one thing after the other. All of these wars, we had no wars. I got out of every war. We defeated ISIS. We got out. But now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. It's totally corrupt, and we're not going to let it happen. 2024 is our final battle. It's our final battle. It's also, frankly, both ways. It'll either be the worst day in history or it'll be the best day in history. It's very simple. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. They're fake. Not all of them. We've got some wonderful, great professionals, but many of them, and they know they're fake. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House, and we will finish the job once and for all. Because the great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, it's our leadership, all of us together, the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer.